I'm Wade Sankey. This is the Sankey Rodeo Show podcast from the cabin right here on the ranch in Sankey, America. It's not going to get any better than that. You just will go. Thanks for coming, Brody Wells.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, NFR qualifier, 2 NFR round wins.
Yeah.
Just one Red Bluff.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. One Red Bluff, broke my saddle, come home. Yeah, pretty much. Went to Guyman the other day, but yeah, nothing really. Just went to Guyman since Red Bluff, but just been poking around, hanging out at home.
Yeah. So where's the next place you're going?
Redding, California is next rodeo. Entered in. Going to do Redding, get a plane, and I think me and Juan Chuck and Butner and Zeke were getting a plane, and we're going to go Redding, Cloverdale, Ellensburg that night, Miles City, back to Cloverdale. So not much until that little week right there, and then we'll kind of put some miles down there. But no, just kind of poking around, and then, we got all those bronc matches. We got Deadwood, Fort Pierre on the weekends, and all those until about, June 11th, it's kind of summer run starts for us,
Yeah.
with all those bronc matches.
Going to get busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just been hanging out, going to a couple brandings. I'm going to go brand tomorrow, I think, go help the LU boys down there and go hang out with some friends and go rope some stuff. But yeah, just kicking around, not thinking about rodeo too much, but still, it's every day, you know, every day, in the morning, I try to look at the books and make phone calls I need to. And then when I'm home the rest of the day, I just go, do something else. But yeah.
Did you get a hold of all your bronc riders, figure out how you're going to enter everything?
No. Yeah. Still don't know. Juan Chuck actually has not texted me back, but he just had a kid. So I understand that, but, still been waiting on Juan Chuck to know if we have this plane for sure or not. So I'm just still not really knowing how I'm getting to Redding and all that, but yeah, we'll figure it out when the time comes. But yeah.
I did think it was funny that you were late this morning because you overslept, and yesterday you were bad-mouthing everybody else for not getting out of bed.
I know. I thought of that when I told you. I was like, when you called me yesterday, you were like, talking. I'm like, yeah, it's hard to plan rodeo stuff when none of these bronc riders get up before whatever. What did I say? I might have even said 9 o'clock.
I am the only bronc rider in America that gets out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. And then I sure enough woke up today at 9 o'clock, and I was supposed to be here at 8. But in my defense, Wade, like I told you, had a bit of a shit show last night. So yeah, that's my excuse. But yeah. Late, typical rodeo cowboy fashion.
Yeah.
But I'm here now.
Exactly.
We're in here, finally.
So what about the shit show? Like, you don't have to go into great detail, but...
Oh, yeah. Found a black bear 2 days ago, cinnamon bear. Really good, mature one, and I was like, man, I need it. But it was way up in there. Seeing it through my spot and scope right at, getting close to dark. And so, and I just drove my pickup up to this glassing spot where I glass, bears from and all that. So anyways... Go back next day, me and my buddy Tucker, we're going to, take a couple. He was riding a colt. I was going to pack a colt, and I was on a good horse, and we're just going to go up there on an afternoon hunt and see if we can class this bear up and make a play on it. And so we load up saddlebags with some beer, and we head up there and take a chainsaw with us and end up clearing a little bit of trail and going in there and having a good time. End up getting in a complete hellhole and roll the horse off the mountain, about took Tucker out, and all the horses survived and Tucker's alive, but skinned up some knees and some rock cuts and stuff like that. So got out about 10 o'clock last night, went home, dropped horses, took care of horses, and had to vector send them and put some salve on them and make sure everybody was all right, no broken bones and all that. So about the time I got back to bed, crawled in bed about 12:30. So,
but you got a story out of the deal.
I did get a story. So, and a good excuse why I was late. About 5 hours late, but
not that good of an excuse.
I know, but it's what I'm rolling with.
So you grew up in Powell. We got to be careful to explain this to people because I know where you grew up. But you grew up in Powell. Your dad and your uncle are maybe two of the wildest human beings I've ever met.
Yeah.
And that's how you learned to go play in the mountains. And
that's all I knew. Like growing up, every fall, my dad and my uncles, like they had a, man trip every fall. I remember like it was like a rite of passage when I was a little kid, looking at like they'd head out and they'd just take horses and they'd just go bow hunt. They'd go roam the Washakie Wilderness for about 2 weeks with their bows, and they just ride everywhere, camp, move camps. And and just roam around, and like that was their deal. So growing up into that, like my family's just always been like, and you know, up the North Fork where I grew up, like I mean that the wilderness, the national forest and wilderness. I mean, you throw a rock and you can hit it.
Yeah.
It's right there. You know?
Just outside of Cody.
Yeah, just in the Wapiti Valley there, just west of Cody. So yeah, growing up there, it was. I mean, that's all I knew. Is going like seeing my uncles, and you know, my uncle had. You know, he's a government trapper. That's what he does for a living. He, you know, finds animals and kills them. It's his job. And, yeah, and my dad was a little more drawn into the rodeo side. You know, he never, you know, he never made the finals or anything, but he's a good circuit cowboy, and he'd go to the NRA rodeos in Montana and go to Canada a lot, and he'd win a rodeo. But
at one point, he was winning the world.
Yeah, that is a funny story. He was winning the world at one point.
Yeah.
For, I don't know how long that lasted. Probably.
Was that Kansas City?
I can't remember. It was like the start of the new year, whatever it was, and he was leading the world for like a week or something. That's his claim to fame. It's one of his favorite stories to tell.
Did happen though.
It did happen. He was a world leader at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dad was kind of drawn to rodeo more and rode bulls and barebacks, and you know he rodeoed for your dad when he was the coach at Northwest and stuff. So
I didn't realize that. I knew he was around the night rodeo.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Ed and Ike stories.
Yeah.
Button heads, which you could imagine that.
Absolutely.
Because I know my dad, and yeah, you know your dad, so it's pretty.
They're
funny.
pretty similar.
Yeah.
So, how old were you when you got into the mountains? Like when they let you go on the trip?
Oh, I mean, I can't even. I mean, my dad. There's pictures of me riding on the back of my dad's horse, leading a pack string. You know? And you know, just being up. Whether it was, you know, probably wasn't going into hunting trips with him, but you know, summer trips and going and dicking around here and there. But yeah, I mean, the first bull elk I ever killed, I actually borrowed my dad's pickup because I didn't have a diesel pickup at the time. I was 14, and I had a hardship, you know, like your farmer's license.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom didn't know about this, but
does she? Or she?
Oh yeah, she does now. Okay. But she at the time she didn't know. But my dad, I think he let me out of school or whatever, and I went on a day hunt, and I went up Sheep Mountain. You know where that's out up the North Fork.
Yeah.
And I rode out of the gravel pit at Sheep Mountain at about 4:30 in the morning. I was 14, and I stayed at my grandpa's house, and I had 2 horses with me, a good broke horse, and then a colt. I was packing a colt that was the first horse I ever really started and, you know, did everything with. And so me and that horse, we rode. It was like 11 miles, went way up Wapiti Ridge. You go up, hit the top Sheep Mountain, you go across, hit Wapiti Ridge, and you can just pick across that and go over there and got on a, you know, I thought he was a big bull at the time, but I mean, 280-inch 6-point, you know, and heard him bugling from his bed and went in there, and I had my dog with me, and me and my dog stalked in there, and I shot him like 70 yards with a rifle, stalked him down in the trees, and seen 6-point with horns and freaking blasted him. But yeah, I was small enough then, like skin and bones then, like I could barely lift a front quarter up on the pack horse. I had to have my dad ride. I rode all the way out that night, and we rode all the way back in the next day because I couldn't even lift the hind quarters up. And I got him, and I remember I had like a Havalon knife, right, with the blades. I lost it. There's like 2 foot of snow. So I had a little belt knife like this size, and I quartered that whole bull out, and I had like a little steel stick in my backpack, like this old shitty Walmart steel stick, and I'd go make a couple cuts, go back. I mean, it took me, and there was 2 bears that kept circling around there, and my dog was keeping them, barking at them, and I had my horses on either side of that bull down in these trees, and yeah, it was, I mean, looking back now, I mean, it was awesome for a 14-year-old kid, but I look back and I'm like, Dad, holy shit, you just turned me loose and said, you know, slapped me on the ass and said, we'll see you later.
Yeah.
You know, but it was good. I mean, I figured it out, but you know, I'd spent a lot of time with my dad and, you know, been on horses since I remember. So
you think that was part of his plan? Maybe he wouldn't come back?
Yeah, probably get me out of his hair for a little bit, but.
Yeah. And was the elk still there?
Yeah, no, I went back, I drug, you know, I think I drug him those hind quarters because I took the head, the back straps, and the front quarters, and I left the hinds. Yeah. And because I remember him telling me, he's like, you should take another pack horse with you. I'm like, I don't want to deal with 2 pack horses. I'll just bring, you know, those saddle panniers you can put over. And I get all the way back there, you know, and just being a young dumb kid, I get back there and I was like, I'm leaving, I'm coming back tomorrow. I'm not hiking out of here. Like I would have made it if I had to hike out of there,
Yeah.
Like I was just so worn down. But yeah, so we went back in there and I drug those hinds off the night before and covered them up in snow and piled a bunch of stuff on them. Because, those bears knew that was there. But I opened up that gut pile before I left. So they'd go to that easy stuff first. But, yeah, I went back and it was there. And my dad was riding in there. And we were across. There's a couple catwalks you got to ride across to get to where this bull was. And, he gave me the old head nod of approval of, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, you were in an absolute hellhole,
Do you think he was surprised that you got one killed?
No, probably not. I don't know. It was the first bull out. Yeah, maybe he was. I don't know. But him and my grandpa ended up I called him at the top of the ridge. You could get phone service. And so I called him when I shot that bull and I said, I got a bull down. I'm going to go in there. And I was telling him about all the bears I'd been seeing. And then I lost service or my phone died or something. So that was the last thing he heard was the bears.
Yeah.
So, of course, my dad, which any father would do, a 14-year-old kid, so I'm about back to where the cabin is, where you drop down the trail and you go back down to the gravel bar there where everybody or the gravel pit where everybody parks there, the trailhead kind of deal. And I'm about to drop off that. And here comes my grandpa. And I can't remember. It's late. Might have been in the morning, My grandpa and my dad come riding up. They were headed up in there to come find me, And I come riding out and I just had a massive horse wreck because I stopped to do something and my pack horse behind me is that colt and he's just plugging along. And that bull was narrow enough. I didn't know how to pack an elk head then. I got it lobbed off and I tried to pack it tines back, but that bull was narrow enough. And I think it was his force were poking him in the flank.
Yeah.
So I spun him around. And I probably didn't even have him lashed on there halfway decent, And I stopped and that pack horse come up past me. And then my horse went up and it hit that back beam of him and it shoved that tine up in his neck. So it up high though. So that tine goes way up in his neck and I'm sitting there and then that, my old colt, he's freaking out, And so I get off, cut the lash, jerk that elk head, and he's still got a white scar right here and it went, just missed everything and went up in the muscle.
Yeah.
Just had a big old wreck right there and thought I killed my old poor colt, my favorite first horse I ever really started on my own and all
learn
that.
Somehow.
Yeah. And then 2 minutes later, Dad and Grandpa ride up and they're like, what's going on? They see me and they were happy to see me, but yeah, so that was kind of that was my, that was my first ever go heading off on my own. But yeah, my dad had turned me loose. He's pretty good. And I was fortunate enough, had a bunch of pretty good horses to use and take the mounds and go brand on and whatever else. So
yeah,
had some good horses around that took care of me when I was younger.
Yeah.
So
did they run cattle at all? I know your grandpa always had some stuff around, but
my grandpa had a little setup there when he had that place up the North Fork. And then my dad had a few I can't remember. It was when I was younger, 30 or somewhere from 30 to 50 cows, 30 to 40 cows, just a little hobby set. And then he got tired of them and sold them. But no, just had at one point in time in high school when I was riding a bunch of horses, we used to have a bunch of saddle horses and stuff. And my mom had a couple brood mares and stuff. And that me and my dad bucked without her knowing. And this one pitched hard at the college barn at Northwest. But yeah, she's a Lowry Star mare and she was rotten, counterfeit. But me and my buddies would always go out there and we'd rope her and try throwing all the Mexican loops, Del Viennos, and front footing her and put her in the round pen. And we'd all take turns riding her. And flat out, I've not been bucked off hard off very many saddle horses, but that one has chilled me multiple times. And I don't think anybody ever rode her.
Doesn't sound like you can blame her.
No, I don't at all. But yeah.
So let's see here. Trying to decide where to go. So you grew up on the North Fork.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you guys move to town?
So that school up the North Fork there, it's kindergarten through 5th grade.
You went there?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, Wapiti Valley, man.
Is it still open?
I think so.
Yeah.
Wapiti Valley alumni. Yeah.
So if you've never been there, anybody watching, there's a fence around this Wapiti school, and it's not to keep the kids in, it's to keep the bears out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember being out at recess and like, those buffalo that come out of the park and they'll wander down the highway and stuff. I remember that, they'd say when those buffalo and bears would come up close to the fence, they'd have a certain alarm, they'd have to ring the alarm, like,
Yeah.
get all the kids in because there's buffalo freaking right there,
An emergency alarm.
Yeah. And we're just, it's normal. Like, to us, but any other school, like having a grizzly bear come walking by, as there's a fence, playground, grizzly bear comes strolling by because it's right on that river, and everything's migrating in and out of there and whatever else. But yeah, it was neat. Looking back now, super neat experience for be a little kid to, see that and go to school and have that every day.
Great way to ruin your recess, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Get mauled by a bear.
Again.
Damn bear killed another kid. Get inside, guys. Gotta play dodgeball today. Yeah. But,
So, and then when you moved to town, how old were you?
Yeah. Oh, so, the bottom of Badger Basin Hill?
Yes.
So my parents bought, it was just a bunch of sagebrush flat, and they built a pretty nice place, a house and a barn and an arena there, and, made a nice little horse place and stuff like that. And then, so they built that up kind of after we moved from the North Fork to there. So that's in between Powell and Cody.
Yeah.
And then they sold that and they bought an old farm ranch homestead place. Jack Reichert was his name, the Reichert family from Powell.
Yeah.
And they had it forever. And they used to farm all that and run all their cattle on the bench and all that rough ground right above it. But that's on Road 16 there. So my dad bought that and then like completely remodeled that place, and they're still doing it. Like when I texted the other day, he was in the hospital from gassing himself out. He's putting in a sprinkler system in that big yard and stuff. So like they're still working on it and stuff like that. But yeah, that place was bad. And then my dad bought it, been in that ground with it and stuff. And it's a nice place, but my dad and my mom had to work a lot on that, know, but it's a nice place now and all that. So that's where they still live. And then I just live south of Powell, a couple miles south of Powell. But, so yeah, my dad, where I grew up the majority of the time, when I was in teenage years and all that, was at that place just north of Ralston there. So
Yeah. So I guess before I forget about this, we should talk about sponsors. It's definitely skipping around, but any sponsors you want to talk about?
I'm not wearing my sponsor shirt. I'm not very good rodeo cowboy today.
But, first podcast, he said.
Yeah, first podcast, guys. So don't dog on me too bad. But man, I don't know. I appreciate all my sponsors, really. Anybody wants to put a name on my shirt, appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Thanks for the help.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, you can still rodeo without sponsors, but I mean, you got to win a lot more, because it's like last year I figured it at like probably 60 I spent rodeoing.
Yeah.
60 grand. So.
Do you want to name any of them?
Yeah. Pitchfork. They've been with me they're my Pitchfork, and then Pace Setters out of Powell. Pace Setters Hot Shot Service, Andy Asher there. They been with me. They were the first two about the same week. So I refer to both of them as my first sponsors.
Yeah.
Right. But, first two people to give me some money and help me get going down the road. And so I really appreciate those guys, and Cinch, of course, keeping me dressed good, and Saratelli hats, keeping me fresh hats. And I mean, there's a couple other Miles City Buck and Horse Sale for putting on a good bronc match, and Cedar Gap Wealth Management now, just signed with them. Michael Hull out of Abilene, he's going to help me, he's going to teach me how to make money and all that fun stuff.
And keep it.
Yeah. So when I'm done rodeoing, I'm not just a bum.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice.
So this year you had a pretty good year.
Yeah.
How much?
After the finals, I had like 230 something.
Yeah.
Ask my dad; he would know exactly.
Yeah.
But
so is he helping you with money?
No, not really.
Did you get dinged with a bunch of taxes?
I almost did.
Yeah.
I almost did, and then kind of found a loophole.
So you were ahead of the game.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, okay. So when you're filling out all the paperwork to the NFR, they send you a packet, right? And on it, you can either accept, there's a deal where you accept or defer. And like Damo, I talked to Damo after I did this, and he did the same thing his first year he went. So like when you're doing it, and I'm like scrolling through it, yeah, click sign here or whatever. Like, yeah.
Just make it go away.
Yeah. And so it's like, you want to accept the money. I didn't read into it or really even call and ask anybody. I'm like, yeah, I want to accept the money. Like, yeah, duh. So I accept it, whatever. Well, I was driving home from the NFR after the 11th round, and I looked at my phone and I looked at my bank account, and I was like, oh, wow, all that money's in there right now. And, you know, whatever that is, December, whatever. And so I had a very short time I went and spent a lot of money, wrote off a lot of stuff that I needed. I mean,
yeah,
like that I went and did. So yeah, that was a bit of a learning curve there. But yeah, I was able to, through some friends of mine, shout out the Bobcat of the Bighorn Basin, I bought a brand new skid steer last minute notice just to put some money on something that, you know, you can
equity.
Yeah. And then roll it. So they helped me out a bunch. But yeah, if I didn't spend any money there, I was going to have to pay the government quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like way more than I really ever wanted to, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, so I bought it. Yeah, so I bought some more horses and suppressors, freaking thermals, guns, you know.
Yeah.
Had my buddy Tucker build me a custom scabbard. I mean, just random stuff, you know, stuff like that. But stuff that I had been wanting before, and then, you know, when you're trying to scratch it out, you don't want to spend that money on that. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a neat deal to be able to do that now and whatever else. But
yeah. So what about scratching it out? How much did you win last year?
Like after the NFR, or you're talking like year before?
No, in the season. Yeah. So your first year at the NFR, like,
yeah.
How did this work? How old are you?
20, just turned 24.
24. So you're 24. You've really only rodeoed for 3 years, huh?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. We're in 25. So 24 was the NFR.
Yeah.
23 was going really good. And then you got crippled.
Yeah. Busted my leg up.
Yeah. And then the year before that, was that your rookie year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just didn't know, like, go back to my rookie year. I didn't understand, like, I think I went to like 60 rodeos total, or my count was like at 60. That's counting turnouts and all that. Like, I didn't understand how hard you had to rodeo and all that. And like after my rookie year, which it was good, you know, I looked back after that year was over and realized, oh, like, this is what rodeo, like, I was just kind of being a pussy, you know, and like, I didn't understand, hey, you load up, like, your rookie year, you got to load up middle of June and come home September 30th. Like, that's what you got to do. And so I almost felt like, and then, so going into the year after that, I bust my leg up and had all that weird stuff. So going in that year, I was dead set. I mean, I'm letting it all hang out. And then right after Calgary did that, went home, whatever. And then thankfully I had enough money won. My qualifications were still good. You know, I was still top 30 in the world and got into Houston, you know, all that. And then, you know, last year, 2024, going into, you know, the NFR and all that, I just, you know, I felt like that was almost like my rookie year. Finally got a rodeo a full year and, you know, kept my head down all the way to the end, and it worked out. But yeah, I just didn't really understand what it really took when I bought my card, because I was actually going to wait. I bought my card after I won circuit finals, and I was going to wait to do it the next year. And then I was like, Cash and Damo bought their cards. I'm like, well, I want to go to these rodeos too. So I bought it and whatever else. And just a learning process, and just figured it out. Us three just loaded up, and Damo had this 3/4 ton. He still has it, this white Dodge that actually was Isaac Diaz's pickup, and had this red camper. We call it Big Red. And I think that red camper, it went back to like Jesse Wright ended up first rodeoing in that thing.
Oh, really?
Or maybe, yeah, like it'd been around a lot. But me, Cash, and Damo loaded up in that thing, and we drove that pickup. And I don't even think that summer we took it rodeoing, I think it was still in Isaac's name. Damo never even got insurance on it. We drove it from Houston, Texas to Alberta. I mean, everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. You know, it's just stuff you look back at now but yeah, and we just figured it out, you know. We didn't know what was going on. But
Yeah, and everybody figured it out together. Is Cash older than you guys?
No, Damo is. Damo is 26.
Yeah.
He's 26, and then me and Cash are same age.
But he'd never rodeoed.
No, he just showed up from Australia.
Yeah.
And met him. That's how we all three got. Cash was going to school at UW, then he transferred to Clarendon, and I was going to Clarendon, and I just healed up, just got my foot back after I broke my foot, and so like Cash was there, and I was there at Clarendon, and then Damo's at Snyder, you know, just an hour and a half away. So we were all going to those, you know, little Texas rodeos, pro rodeos, like we'd enter everything, and just go wherever we got in, and that's how we started off going, and then we all went to permit finals, and then, you know, everybody just started, you know, we all went to college finals and just all kept going and figured it out.
Well, that's pretty cool that none of you guys ever got in with somebody that had ever like really rodeoed.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we talk about that a lot too. Now we realize it, you know, getting to go with Damo to the NFR last year was cool, because I remember me and Damo were just like, still can remember sitting in those little Texas college rodeos, sitting there and talking about where we're going to go and figuring it out. I remember me and Damo drove like 8 hours to, I can't even remember what road, Nacogdoches, Texas, I think it was, to walk up, because we didn't make the short round of the college rodeo. And we're like, well, let's just drive over here and walk up. Like, we're not at a rodeo. Let's not stay here at the short round. Like, let's go get on a bronc somewhere. Yeah. So we caught a ride, bummed a ride from the college rodeo down there, get dropped off. We walk up to the secretary's office where they're 2 hours before, and they're like, yeah, we don't take walk-ups. So then me and Damo just sat there with our broncs out. We just sat there, watched the perf, caught a ride back to Stephenville, got dropped off at our buddy Rhett Fanning's house. And I mean, it's just funny things like that. We had no idea, but we were just out there trying to figure it out and just having fun and just experiencing it all. But yeah, we had no idea.
Yeah, didn't matter.
No, didn't care. Figured it out as we go. But yeah, it's pretty neat now. Like when we're, you know, putting our chaps on to go out. You know, Damo made the NFR the year before that too. Yeah, that was his first year, and he had a great year and a great first NFR there. So it was pretty cool to finally be there with him and go out there and 10 nights of it, you know.
Yeah, he's only been there twice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And you one time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was, like, you've been here getting on bucking horses before you ever went to a pro rodeo, right around that time. Mm-hmm. When did you decide that you could do it?
Well, like, I never had like a, you know, not that I was, you know, at the time, maybe I was wishing I had, you know, like, you know, dad that went to the NFR or anything, and it doesn't, you know, that doesn't matter at all or anything, but it would have been, you know, I never had a set, you know, I didn't have, court shear living down the road. You can always run over there and, you know, mentor. I had to take different advice and from different guys, and I had a lot of help starting out, you know, but a lot of different help completely. And I look back now, like, one guy was telling me to lift like this. Mm-hmm. One guy's telling me to lift like this. But I want to lift like here, you know, so you just, and that's part of starting and you know, growing as a bronc rider is figuring out what works for you and everything like that. And there's more than, you know, there's like 10 different ways to skin a cat in the bronc riding world, you know, so many different things work. So I never had a set guy. So I just kind of had to scratch it out, figure it out myself and whatever. But at the same time, like I filled out my Wyoming high school rodeo paperwork and stuff, but I never even went to one. I never even entered one. And I just wasn't that, like, I guess I didn't get my competitive drive until I was like 17 or 18, really, is when it hit me. But like, looking back now, I had a lot of like talent, you know, natural talent in a way, like just enough to keep me hooked. Yeah. But not enough where I figured it out like that. You know, I still got drilled a lot, and it took me quite a bit of horses to really figure it out. You know, I'd catch breaks of it, and I'd pick it up, and then I'd be getting my head and overthink stuff and all that, which that's just part of the process, is figuring out how to deal with all that and keep it simple and stuff. So yeah, and then I was at the night rodeo. I'd go over there, you know, just hanging out local. I'd go get on at the night rodeo and stuff, and that's where I met Brett. And I remember Maury Tay asked me one day, he's like, I'll refer you to this guy, but I got to know if you want it. And I told him, I said, yeah. And right there, and I was like, I really didn't know what I was doing in life. Like I was 17, you know, I just didn't know what I was going to do after I graduated the next year and whatever else. And then I was like, well, I'm going to go down to Texas. And so, yeah, I told Maury, I was like, yeah, I want to, you know, I want to be great at this and whatever. So then he got me, I met Brett when Brett come out that next summer. And then, you know, went down to school, kept, you know, I'd go to those Bighorn Basin rodeos, go to NRA rodeos. I'd come here and get on colt buckings, go get on Hammerker's colts and just open bronc matches and stuff like that. But yeah, never high school rodeoed and stuff. And then went down to college, and in that first semester, I was terrible. Like I was terrible. Like I got down there and I was riding a janky saddle. I can't remember what it was, but Brett got me in a doll that fit me, a 16 3/4 doll, you know, and got me in a doll and, you know, let my stirrups out and let me, you know, not some little short saddle. My stirrups were so tight now, you know, you couldn't even hardly spur one out, blow you out the back, run you out of your cantle and stuff. But yeah, away I went, and just, you know, that first semester was rough. And then, I mean, it just clicked and figured it out. But like I went down to Clarendon and had to restart pretty much.
Yeah.
The more correct way to do it. Cause like I was staying on broncs and I'd get them spurred out, but pull my feet and slash at them, sit up and kind of pull on my rein. And so Brett got me down there and got me in a good saddle. And
Yeah.
just corrected everything and restarted really what I did. And then after that, it's been the way we went.
Yeah. I know the turnaround was amazing and it was quick.
Yeah.
What, who were the other guys that were going to school there? Because everybody knows this deal, and we've talked about it on here before too, but like the saying, iron sharpens iron. I think that's kind of dumb, but like there's got to be somebody that feeds you. If you're doing it by yourself, it's nearly impossible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like when I got there, Riggin Smith was on his last year, and the year before that he just won college finals. And like Tegan Smith, you know, made the NFR.
Yeah.
Rides really good. He was just there too. And, you know, they just had some bunch of good guys leave there. But Riggin was still there. Keen Justinson from Florida, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Rides good. Cash, me, Trailshire, Weston Patterson. There's quite a few. And like, you know, nobody was super, super salty. Like Riggin rode really good, and Cash did too.
Yeah.
But like everybody was hungry. There was like, I mean, our bronc riding practices, there's seriously almost fist fights over getting on broncs. Like I used to go get on 4 or 5 head twice a week. You know, Brett had like 60 head of broncs standing there.
Yeah.
And we would buck horses. And like, I remember some weeks we'd buck 3 times a week. Like it was all out, but Brett was dead set on winning a men's national title, you know, men's team. And it was hungry. Like we had workouts every morning, and I hope Brett listens to this. Hit Brett's workouts. I understand the philosophy of it, you know, and everything, and it's great. But he had stations of like 30 seconds or a minute. We'd do jumping jacks and like old school stuff. It was good though, but like got us out of bed, got our blood moving, and you just that mental fact of being there. And then if you missed workouts, you'd have to go run miles and stuff like that. So kept you motivated to be there and whatever. But yeah, I kind of going to Clarendon just taught me what it takes to, you know, what a guy has to do to get better and to, you know, get his mental game up and to where he feels like he can win at rodeos, like college rodeos, pro rodeos, everything. But yes, there's a good group of guys down there. And like my last year at Clarendon, we'd have practices. Like when Pete would drop off a set of colts, Brett would, you know, by the 4th, 5th trip, he figured out their flank, delivery, you know, throat, X and 4 in the throat, or, you know, double and braid, and a bunch of them, like all those colts were super jam up.
Yeah.
And stuff bucks hard in that little indoor there, or big indoor there. And so, I mean, like, there's videos on my phone. I look back now. I mean, like, we'd have jackpot bronc ridings. Like, everybody'd put in $20, and then Brett would pick, you know, who won it. Best bronc ride. It was pretty obvious to tell. So it was pretty competitive, and we all run amok together and worked out together and got on broncs together and went to college rodeos and pro rodeo together. So
that's awesome.
Bunch of guys that wanted it.
Yeah.
So
did you have a moment in pro rodeo, like past that point, or have you had it yet to where you realize that you could go beat Sage and you could go beat Zeke and all of that?
I mean, yeah, when I I don't know if I exactly know the exact moment, you know what I mean? But just being around those guys, and then, when you start making the short rounds and you're riding against them, and then you start, and anybody that knows anything about rodeo, just because you beat someone that day doesn't mean you're better than them or not. You might outdrew them.
Yeah.
They might have spurred themselves off because they're about to be 92 and then, kick his pedal off or whatever. But
yeah, but just confidence wise.
yeah.
Like there's a point to where you get to tell yourself that,
Yeah.
yeah, like I can beat them. I can play with them guys.
I think it was honestly around, it was in mid-August somewhere. Or maybe it was Sentinel Butte or somewhere around there. August on my rookie year, I remember finally like, hey, like I was thinking about it the wrong way. I was just rodeoing to, like, like in my mind, thinking back at it, how I was thinking, like I'm just rodeoing at the time, like make the short round. Not win the short round, but just make the short round.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that'd be cool to make the short round ride with these guys. And then you start making those short rounds and start realizing, and then you look around and you're like, oh, I can win this thing, and then you just like, as soon as you believe you can win it, it's just weird how law of attraction works and all that. I mean, it just happens.
Yeah.
It just happens like that. But yeah, being around good guys like that, like the Bronc riders are sweet. I mean, it's super competitive. A lot of shit gets talked, a lot, but it's good. But it's good to be around those guys that keep you motivated, and they'll call you out, or if your mark out's been sucking, they'll let you know, and it's good. I mean, that's what I want to surround myself by, is guys that no BS to them, straight up,
Yeah.
and just good guys, good positive guys that like to have fun and like to win,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about the NFR? Were you scared?
Yeah. Well, you've seen how I rode before the NFR, Wade. Rude roommate dusted me.
Got you down. That's a fact. I have the video.
I remember getting up that day at Sheridan because I was put, for whatever reason, I put new boards in my
We
saddle.
got to back up a little bit.
Okay,
so
okay.
we got a little college practice at Sheridan where we buck some pretty good horses.
Yeah.
Guys that are going to the NFR usually come try to get on. Anyway, he'd been to Sheridan getting on, kind of our people, so that's what we were doing in Sheridan right before the NFR.
Yep.
And Brookman's brought a horse called Rude Roommate that I think I could ride.
Yeah.
Still.
I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Did I send you that video when I got on it in Jackson?
You did.
This year, and I was like, I got him back.
Redemption.
And the funny thing is, I've been on him twice before that and rode him good. Like, he's a really nice, good horse. You know what I mean? Like, what you want to get on before the finals. And I was just trying to be perfect. And, like, I went down, I called Seth up, and I went down there and got on some hammockers before and just had hell. Like, I mean, not good. Did not even look like myself.
Yeah.
And then I ran and I talked to Wyatt Casper about it at the Clarendon. Clarendon College has a rodeo banquet, NFR send-off party, and it was Brett's son's Clint's wedding. So I went down there for that weekend, and I was kind of easing, talking to Wyatt about it. I'm like, Wyatt, like,
could use some advice here, buddy.
Like I'm shitting a brick here, buddy. Like, what's going on here? And he's like, man, the worst I ever rode, or up until last year, he said he rode the year he made the most money at the finals. He rode the worst getting on. And he says, don't even worry about it. Like, everybody does it. You know what I mean? Like, trying to be perfect in the practice pen and all that. So then I come back and I go to Sheridan. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to go be a bronc rider, like Rude Roommate, whatever. Rude Roommate goes out there, gets in the right lead. I just fly off, just get shit canned off in the dirt. And I remember I picked my head up and I just see you just laughing. I was just walking back. I'm like, this sucks.
Everybody laughed.
I know. I'm like, this sucks. That's not even me. Like, this is not even me. I've rode some rank broncs before and whatever. And then you run in Outlaw Tunes. Outlaw Tunes might have saved my life, actually. So shout out to that horse.
You'd be living in the mountains.
Yeah. You'd never see me. Yeah. So anyways, get on Outlaw Tunes, realize my stirrups were about 5 holes too long for whatever reason. Idiot. I should not have changed my stirrup leathers at all, but I did because I felt like I needed to change something and I shouldn't have. But
yeah.
Anyways, learned from that one. Go to the finals, had Flirtatious, made a so-so ride, and then drew probably one of the best ones in there, that Pretty Woman, and she had an outstanding day, and I hung it on her, won the round, and then after that, just, and then I had drew really good that first, those first 5 rounds, drew really good. I had Flirtatious, Pretty Woman. I had what's that? Or not exotic. What's yesterday's delivery? Bucks really hard out of there, out of the lefts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had yesterday's in the semi round, and then I can't even remember what I had. And then I had black tie in the 5th round, and then so those first 5 rounds were great, and it just drew really good in NFR, and like having, I remember getting that. I was riding back from Thomas and Mac with Logan and Ben. We took a pickup over there. We're riding back to Resorts World there, going back to the hotel. And one of them, I can't remember which one of them, but they're looking at the list like, oh, stock come out. That feeling of like, that's like the jittery feeling you get, every night. So we get on our phones, and I just remember looking down. I find my name, look over, 108, and I just start screaming in there. I'm like, yeah, just freaking out. And so that was cool. And I knew like I just knew I was going to have that horse too. I just had that feeling. I'm like, black tie's in there. I'm going to have him tomorrow. So, and I said it joking around. I think I was joking around with Sage. We were joking about who had him. And I was like, well, how are you going to get on him if I have him tomorrow? Because I'm going to win the round tomorrow on it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, had him and then split the round with Ryder and whatever else. But yeah, it was pretty neat, pretty good NFR experience. I definitely experienced it all aspects of it. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you did good. What's new going forward? Are you a goal setter?
Yeah. Kind of, in a way. I just have a main goal of just getting better, just always trying to get better.
Yeah.
And, you don't have, it's a weird deal in bronc riding. Like, getting better doesn't mean you have to be in the gym every day. Just, you got to find what works for you and stuff. And like, I'm not saying, you got to be in shape, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But going to the gym does not make you a good bronc rider. Getting on practice horses doesn't make you a good bronc rider. It's like your mentality. So whatever you got to do to get that mentality, I feel like, is what you need to do. But like Dawson Hay, I mean, that guy had never been in a gym in his life. But I mean, definitely stays active, stays in shape, eats right, like whatever. But like, I mean, that guy's just mentally strong, and that guy's riding outstanding right now.
Yeah.
I mean, so good. And so you got all different guys, and then you got like Grassy works out every day, and rides outstanding. So there's so many different things that work for different guys. But no, my main deal is just try to be better, learn, better mentally, be, more positive, be a better guy, and, just kind of be a leader and just, I don't know, just be a better person, better bronc rider, and it all the same thing, just getting better in all aspects and moving forward. And I remember talking to you that one night about, do you remember that when we were at Resorts World? I think it was after the night I won the round on black tie. We were talking about whatever, and you're talking about gold buckles and stuff like that. And I can't remember exactly what we were talking about at that point in time at the night, but yeah, it got brought up about, now that I've been in the NFR and seen it, how it works, like it's anybody's game. If you even make it, if you make it there, it's anybody's game. And seeing Damo, kid that me and him were on our permits in college rodeo, like he almost won the world last year, led the world for going into the finals and everything, and slipped out of his hands there at the end of it, but still got second in the world and had a great year and reserve world champ and all that. But it goes to show you, like, it's just realize that anybody can, a lot of things got to go your way, and you got to be dialed in the whole year, and you got to have a good NFR and draw good and ride good and everything. But yeah, it's anybody's game. If you believe it, you can do it. You can probably do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, going forward, just get better.
Awesome.
Just get better and stomp broncs and have fun.
Nothing to it.
Yeah.
I got more questions, but we're going to end it with that.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Brody.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep.
It's good. Fun to talk to you.
Yep. We're going to go to work now.
Perfect.
I'll start the welder.
Awesome. I'm leaving.